The great chamber of the Galactic Council was silent, the kind of silence that came before storms. Giant towers of crystal rose around the hall. Glowing faintly with energy, alien leaders of 100 worlds sat in their seats, eyes fixed on the central podium. No one whispered, no one moved. Every being there knew something was about to change forever. At the center, the High Speaker of the Council stood, her body shimmering like liquid silver. She raised her hand and the chamber lights dimmed. The councilors leaned forward, waiting. The High Speaker's voice rang through the chamber. Calm but cold, she spoke words that many feared but none expected. Humans are hereby outlawed. The sound was like thunder in the hearts of those who heard it. The words echoed again and again. Outlawed, outlawed, outlawed across the chamber. Alien leaders looked at each other, some in shock, some in triumph. A few in fear. Outlawed meant hunted. Outlawed meant erased. The High Speaker continued, her voice sharp as steel. They have broken the laws of balance. They rise too quickly. They spread too far. They adapt too well. They threaten the order of the galaxy. She paused, letting her words sink into every mind. From this moment, every human colony, every ship, every outpost is forbidden. No protection will be given. No trade will be allowed. They will be purged. A wave of unease swept the chamber. Some alien rulers shifted nervously, their eyes glowing in disagreement. Others nodded eagerly, already thinking of how they could gain from human ruin. Deep in the shadows of the chamber, whispers began. Was this justice, or was this fear disguised as law? In distant star systems, the decree spread like fire, through encrypted channels, through glowing news streams, through the gossip of wandering traders. One word carried across the stars. Humans were no longer part of the council. Humans were now prey. On mining stations, alien workers gasped, remembering the fierce human miners who once dug beside them. In trade ports, merchants cursed, for humans had always paid their debts. On warworlds, soldiers smiled grimly, for they knew new battles were coming, but the humans did not yet know. Not all of them. On Earth itself, the blue home of mankind, the skies remained calm, children still played, cities still glowed with life, the people unaware that the council had signed their doom. But on the frontier colonies, where the stars burned brighter and danger was never far, whispers began to spread. The council had declared them enemies. Fleets were already moving. One colony governor on the edge of space stared at the news in disbelief, his hands trembling. They cannot do this, he whispered. We have broken no laws. But his aide only looked at him with sorrow. They do not need reasons, Governor. They only need fear. Far away, in a hidden war chamber of the council, alien generals gathered around glowing maps of human space. They pointed at colonies, marked them with symbols of fire. They spoke of fleets, of warhosts assembling. It will be easy, said one general with scales of bronze. They are only human. Their fleets are small. Their weapons outdated. They will fall quickly. Others nodded, convinced of their superiority, but an older general, his body scarred from ancient wars, spoke softly, his eyes dark. Do not underestimate them, he warned. Humans fight like no other. I have seen them when cornered. They do not surrender. They become something else, something the galaxy should fear. His words were ignored. The council had already decided. Meanwhile, in the quiet of the void, human ships drifted unaware, freighters carrying grain, research vessels studying stars, patrol ships guarding trade routes. They did not know fleets of alien warships were already leaving their docks, already burning their engines toward human space. The trap was set. The decree was final. Humans were alone. No allies would protect them. No law would shield them. Yet across the stars, in the hearts of many species, doubts grew. Some remembered human kindness. Some remembered debts owed. Others remembered human courage in the last great war. They wondered if outlawing humans was wisdom, or a mistake that would ignite the galaxy. The High Speaker ended the session with one last command, her silver form glowing brighter. Let it be known. The age of humanity is over. The crystal towers flared. The decree was sealed. The chamber emptied. But the words did not fade. They carried through the galaxy like a shadow, and far beyond the council's sight, on a small colony where children played under twin suns, a young pilot named Kara watched the sky. She felt unease in her heart, though she did not know why. The stars seemed different tonight, colder, sharper, as if warning her. Somewhere out there, fleets were moving. The galaxy had turned against mankind. The warhosts were already assembling, and soon, the first sparks of war would light the darkness. But the council had forgotten one truth that would change everything. Humans never knelt quietly. They fought, they endured. and when pushed to the edge, they became unstoppable. The twin suns of the frontier colony sank low on the horizon, painting the skies with gold and fire. It should have been a peaceful evening. Children laughed as they chased each other across dusty fields. Farmers returned from the outer plains. Workers carried tools back into storage, but something in the air felt heavy, like a storm waiting beyond sight. Inside the colony's council hall, Governor Elias stood before a trembling screen. The galactic decree replayed again and again. The voice of the high speaker, cold and merciless, humans are hereby outlawed. His hands tightened around the edge of the desk until his knuckles turned white. They cannot erase us like this, he whispered. His aide looked down, unable to answer. Across the settlement, the news spread like fire through the streets. Families huddled in doorways, their voices hushed. Traders cursed as the supply ships canceled docking routes. Guards along the wall tightened their grips on old rifles. They had lived in peace for years, but peace had ended in a single breath. Among them was Kara, a young pilot who had never known Earth. She grew up under the twin suns. Racing small ships through asteroid belts, she dreamed of stars and freedom. But now those dreams were replaced by whispers of war. She sat outside her hangar, staring at the sky, her heart restless. Her ship behind her silent and cold. In the tavern, voices rose, fear and anger mixing. We should run, hide in the outer dark. Maybe they will forget us, one man shouted. Run! Another snapped, slamming his fist on the table. Where can we run? The council will find us anywhere. Others nodded. Torn between hope and despair, Governor Elias called for calm. Standing in the center of the square, "We are not yet under attack," he said, his voice carrying across the crowd. "But the council will come. We cannot deny it. We must prepare. We must stand together." His words steadied some hearts, but not all. For every colonist knew their weapons were old, their defenses weak, and the fleets of the council were endless. That night, Kara could not sleep. She walked the quiet hangar, her hand brushing against the cool metal of her ship. Her father had once told her that humans were strongest when cornered, but she had never believed it. Now, as the stars glared down, she wondered if it was true. The next morning, alarms rang across the colony, not of attack but of discovery. Miners had uncovered something deep within the asteroid field nearby, something massive hidden for generations. A message raced to the governor, and Kara, curious, joined the expedition. They flew into the shadow of the asteroid field, ships weaving between black stone giants. At last they reached the site, and there it was, an enormous human battleship, ancient but alive, its hull buried under rock, its weapons silent but intact. The miners had stumbled upon a relic of the first wars, a warship left behind when humanity still fought as one. Kara stood in awe, her voice hushed. "This ship, it breathes like it is waiting." The others stared too, some in fear, some in wonder. Governor Elias's eyes hardened. "This is a gift or a curse," he said, "but it may be the only chance we have." They began working, engineers crawling over the hull, connecting power cells, waking engines that had slept for centuries slowly. Lights flickered inside, corridors lit up with pale blue glow, consoles hummed. Kara felt the deck rumble beneath her boots. The ship was not dead, it was only sleeping. But danger grew nearer. Word of the decree had spread not only to humans but to their neighbors. Alien fleets had begun to gather. Scouts were seen at the edge of human space. One was even spotted near the twin suns, watching, measuring, ready to strike inside the colony. Choices tore the people apart. Some begged to flee, to scatter into hidden systems. Others demanded they prepare for battle. "If we fight, we die," cried one elder. "If we run, we die slower," answered another. Governor Elias turned to Kara, his voice heavy. "You are our best pilot. You know the stars better than any. Will you fly this ship when the time comes?" Kara's heart pounded. She was only a pilot. She had never commanded more than a freighter run. But when she looked at the ship, its vast hull, its silent promise, she felt something awaken inside her. "If we are doomed either way," she said, "then let us at least fight. Let us show them humans will not kneel." The crowd roared. Not in fear this time, but in defiance. Something had shifted. The colony was no longer waiting for death, they were preparing for war. That night, the first systems of the battleship came online. Its weapons warmed, its shields whispered with energy. In the command chamber, Kara touched the captain's chair, her reflection shining in the glass around her. For a moment she imagined the fleets of the council, endless and cold, descending on their small world. She felt fear but also fire. Out in the black void, alien warhosts already assembled. Ships of steel and flame, banners of 100 species ready to descend. They laughed at the thought of fragile humans resisting. They saw only prey, easy prey, but they had not yet seen the fire that burned in the heart of humanity. The colony slept uneasily, unaware that in a few nights the stars themselves would blaze with war. But Kara did not sleep. She sat in the battleship, listening to the hum of its ancient heart, and for the first time, she did not feel like prey. She felt like a spark that could ignite the galaxy. The stars over the frontier colony glimmered cold and silent. But beyond those lights, the galaxy was stirring. Fleets moved like shadows, banners of war raised high. The decree of the Galactic Council had been spoken. And now the warhosts of many species were gathering. In hidden shipyards orbiting crimson suns, forges burned day and night. Alien engineers hammered together vast cruisers and armored dreadnoughts. Their hulls bristled with weapons made for crushing planets. Their shields shimmered like walls of fire. Commanders stood proud on their bridges, certain of an easy victory. "Humans will not last a single cycle," said one reptilian admiral, his teeth flashing in a cruel grin. "They are too weak, too divided." But whispers of doubt spread through the ranks. Some remembered the first expansion wars, when humans had fought with fury, when colonies of farmers had risen to soldiers overnight, when fleets of outdated ships had stood against impossible odds. The younger officers laughed at the old tales, calling them exaggerations. But the veterans did not laugh. They remembered scars on the frontier colony, where Kara and her people prepared the ancient battleship. The tension grew heavier with each passing day. Engineers worked without rest, patching broken systems, feeding energy into silent engines. Slowly the ship awakened, corridors lit with blue glow, reactors hummed with deep power, and every hum felt like a heartbeat returning to life. Kara spent her nights inside the command deck, running her hands over controls worn with age. She felt as though the ship was watching her, waiting for her. Sometimes she thought she heard a whisper, a vibration in the air like a voice, not words, but intent, as if the battleship itself remembered war, remembered the blood of its builders. One evening, as the suns dipped behind the horizon, Governor Elias entered the hangar, his face drawn with worry. "Scouts have been sighted," he said, his voice quiet. "Alien ships at the edge of the system. They do not attack. They only watch." Kara's fists clenched. "They are waiting for the warhosts," she whispered. "They are measuring us before they strike." The colony felt the pressure of the coming storm. Food stores were guarded. Children were sent into underground shelters. Weapons were distributed. Though they were few and old, still no one left. No one ran. The discovery of the battleship had changed them. It gave them a sliver of hope. And hope was more dangerous than any weapon. But hope was not enough. Kara knew it, standing on the deck of the ancient warship. She turned to the governor. "We need more ships. We need allies," she said. Elias nodded grimly. "But who will stand with us? The council has declared us outlaws. Any species that aids us risks destruction." Kara looked out at the stars, her voice steady. "Then we will stand alone until they see we cannot be destroyed." Beyond the colony, far across the spiral arms of the galaxy, alien commanders gathered in war chambers of crystal and steel. Holograms of human colonies flickered above tables marked with symbols of fire. One insectoid general tapped his claw against the glowing map. "We will strike them in waves. We will crush their outer worlds first, then the core. Their spirit will break quickly," others agreed. Their voices cold with confidence. Only one, an elder of the aquatic species, spoke with hesitation. "They adapt. They are dangerous when cornered," he warned. "Do not underestimate them." But his words were drowned by the roar of younger voices demanding blood. The warhosts were impatient, eager for conquest back in the asteroid field. Kara and her engineers uncovered something unexpected. Buried deep inside the battleship was a sealed chamber. Untouched for centuries, inside lay weapons unlike any they had ever seen. Cannons forged with strange alloys, launch bays designed for drones that moved like predators, and a core of technology so advanced it pulsed with light beyond human understanding. Kara touched the core, and for a moment, she saw visions, fleets burning, stars trembling, the ship tearing through enemies like storms. She pulled her hand away, her breath sharp. The engineers whispered nervously. "This ship is not just a relic. It is a weapon the council feared," and Kara understood. This was why it had been hidden, why it had been buried and forgotten. It was not meant to be found again, but fate had brought it back. As the days passed, the first clashes began. Human freighters caught in space lanes were destroyed without warning. Outposts vanished. Communication towers went silent. The Council's war had begun, but on the frontier colony the battleship stood ready, its hull glowing with the energy of its rebirth. Kara sat in the captain's chair, her eyes hard. The people looked to her, no longer just a pilot but a symbol, a leader. She felt the weight of it pressing on her shoulders. Fear gnawed at her, but beneath the fear, fire burned. She thought of the decree, of the Council's arrogance, of the laughter of alien generals who thought humans weak, and she made a vow in the silence of her heart. They will see us, they will remember us. We will not vanish quietly. The galaxy moved toward war, the Warhosts assembling in numbers beyond counting, fleets spreading like storms across the stars. But in the shadow of an asteroid field, one human battleship opened its eyes again, and within it, a spark lit by courage and defiance grew brighter. The storm was coming. The Council thought it would be quick. They thought it would be easy. But they had forgotten the oldest truth. When humans were cornered, when survival was the only path left, they became something more, something the galaxy had never seen before. And as Kara gripped the controls of the ancient battleship, her eyes fixed on the endless dark beyond, she whispered a promise to the stars. We are ready. The first strike came before dawn, though in space dawn meant nothing. Only the cold glow of stars across the void. The frontier colony was quiet. Children still slept in underground shelters. Workers were still gathering tools for another day of repairs. The ancient battleship still hummed with awakening power. Then the alarm screamed. Kara was already awake, sitting in the captain's chair of the ship. When the red lights flared and voices shouted through the comms, multiple signatures, inbound fast, alien fleet approaching. Her heart pounded. This was it. The waiting was over. The first blow of the Council's war had arrived. The sky above the colony burned as enemy ships dropped from hyperspace, sleek vessels of bronze and flame, their hulls etched with the banners of the reptilian clans. These were war hunters, ships designed to chase and destroy. Dozens of them swarmed like predators circling prey. Their commanders laughed over open channels, voices sharp and cruel. Humans, surrender your colony. Your deaths will be quick if you obey. The colony answered not with surrender, but with silence. Every man and woman knew the Council's decree. There would be no mercy. Kara tightened her grip on the armrest, her voice steady as she gave her first command. Bring weapons online, shields to full power. The battleship groaned as its ancient systems flared to life. Energy surged through its frame. Long sleeping cannons glowed red with heat. Governor Elias's voice came through the comm, heavy with fear but also resolve. The people are ready, Kara, whatever happens. Do not let them take us without a fight. She nodded, though he could not see. Her eyes locked on the incoming fleet. The first wave of alien fire struck. Beams of plasma lit the void, slamming against the colony's shields. Buildings trembled. Dust fell from the ceilings of bunkers. People cried out, but no one ran. They waited for their defenders, for Kara. She raised her hand. Fire! The battleship roared to life. Massive cannons unleashed beams of light that cut through the void. One alien ship exploded instantly, shards of fire scattering across the stars. The enemy laughed no longer. Their commanders shouted orders. The hunt had become a battle. The Warhosts outnumbered the humans 10-1, swarming in formations, their firepower tearing at the battleship's shields. But Kara did not flinch. She wove the massive vessel through the storm. Her voice calm, though her heart raced. Target their leaders. Break their formation. Her gunners obeyed. Blast tore through command ships. Chaos rippled through the enemy fleet. On the ground, colonists watched the sky, cheering as alien ships burned. But their cheers were cut short when debris rained down, fragments crashing into fields and homes. The war was not distant. It was here. It was everywhere. Kara knew they could not win by brute force. Their ship was powerful but old. Every blast shook its bones. Every strike dimmed its shields. She remembered her father's words. Humans are strongest when cornered. She clenched her jaw. Bring us into the asteroid field, she ordered. Her officers gasped. Captain, the field is unstable. The rocks will tear us apart. Kara's eyes narrowed. So will the Warhosts. The field is our shield. The battleship dove into the maze of stone giants, massive asteroids tumbling in silence. Alien ships followed, confident in their numbers. But Kara had grown up racing these paths. Every tunnel, every shadow was familiar. She turned the ship like a predator through the dark. Alien vessels crashed against rock. Others lost formation. Then the battleship struck from the shadows, its cannons firing at point-blank range. Alien ships exploded in brilliant light, their wreckage scattering into the dark. Kara's crew roared with victory, but their joy was short. The enemy adapted quickly. More ships poured in, their fire lighting the field with deadly glow. The battle stretched into hours, every strike traded with blood. Kara felt exhaustion press on her, but she would not yield. Her voice cracked but did not break. "Hold the line! Make them fear us," and her crew answered with fire and courage. At last, the alien fleet began to break, their commanders screaming in disbelief. They had come for easy prey and found fire. They retreated, dragging broken ships behind them. The battlefield was littered with burning wrecks, the void itself glowing with death. The colony erupted with cheers, voices echoing through shelters and halls. They had survived the first blood. They had shown the galaxy that humans would not kneel, but the cost was heavy. Fields burned, homes shattered, and among the survivors were too many who would never see the suns again. Kara sat in the silent command deck, her eyes fixed on the wreckage drifting beyond the windows, her hands trembling now that the fight was over. She thought of the battles yet to come, of fleets far larger than this, of Warhosts still gathering. She whispered to herself. This was only the beginning. In the council chambers across the galaxy, news spread like wildfire. Humans had stood against impossible odds and won their first battle. Alien leaders shifted uneasily, fear growing like a shadow, and the High Speaker's silver form glowed with anger. "So be it," she hissed. "If they will not vanish quietly, then we will bring the full weight of the galaxy against them." The decree had been written. The war had begun, and though the humans had spilled first blood, the storm was only beginning to rise. The Warhosts were assembling in greater numbers, fleets of thousands ready to descend. But now the galaxy knew one truth again. Humans would not go quietly. In the grand chamber of the Galactic Council, shadows stretched long across the crystal floor. The silence was heavy, broken only by the faint hum of power resonating from the towering pillars. The counselors had gathered again, their faces grim, their eyes sharp. The news of the battle at the frontier colony had spread across the stars. Humans had not been erased. They had not bowed. They had struck back. The High Speaker's silver form flickered brighter, her voice cutting through the stillness. "The humans dare resist," she hissed. "One colony against an entire fleet, and yet they stand. This cannot be tolerated." Her words were cold, but underneath them was something sharper. Fear. The chamber stirred with whispers. An insectoid scholar raised his voice, slow and deliberate. The decree was meant to end them swiftly, but perhaps the truth must now be told. Perhaps these counselors should know why humanity was outlawed. Many turned to glare at him. Others leaned forward, curiosity burning in their eyes. The scholar continued, ignoring the anger. "We do not outlaw without cause. We do not summon Warhosts without reason, the humans. They are not like us." He tapped his claw against the glowing table, and the air shimmered with images. Archives long buried, recordings from ancient wars. The counselors watched as the vision played. They saw humans fighting not with superior numbers, not with stronger weapons, but with something else. With fury, with will, with reckless courage. They saw humans wounded yet still rising, surrounded yet still advancing. They saw ships with broken hulls still ramming into enemy lines. And they remembered these are not myths, the scholar said. His voice harsh. Humans adapt, they learn. They evolve faster than any species. Their lifespans are short, yet their progress is endless. What others achieve in centuries, they achieve in decades if left unchecked. "They will outgrow us all," murmurs filled the chamber. Some counselors nodded. Others shook their heads. One reptilian warlord slammed his fist down, his scales glittering in rage. "So what? They are only mammals. Fragile bones, fragile skin, we have crushed stronger foes." The scholar's eyes gleamed coldly. "And yet those fragile bones spilled your people's blood in the last war." The warlord snarled but said no more. The High Speaker raised her hand, silencing the chamber. "This is the truth," she declared. "Humans are a threat to the balance. They rise too quickly, they spread too far. They cannot be allowed to remain. This is why we outlawed them. This is why we will burn them from the stars." Her silver glow pulsed like fire. Far away in the frontier colony, Kara sat in the command chamber of the battleship. Unaware of the Council's hidden reasons, she stared at maps of space, at signals of enemy fleets moving closer. Her crew rested in silence around her, exhausted from the first battle, but their eyes burned with determination. She thought of the words she had spoken. "Let us fight. Let us show them. And she wondered how many more would die before the galaxy finally understood. Governor Elias entered, his face pale with worry. We intercepted transmissions, he said, placing a data crystal on the console. The Council is uniting the Warhosts into one armada. Every species that obeys them is sending ships. Kara's stomach tightened, she whispered. How many? Elias looked away before answering. Thousands. More than we can imagine. The crew grew quiet, the weight of those words sinking into their bones. But Kara did not bow her head. She lifted her chin, her voice firm. Then we do what humans always do. We endure, we resist. We make them bleed for every star they take. Her words lit sparks in tired hearts. Unknown to them, not all species agreed with the Council. In secret corners of the galaxy, whispers grew. Alien merchants who once traded with humans cursed the decree. Scholars who studied alongside humans spoke of their brilliance. Soldiers who fought beside them remembered their courage. Some began to wonder if the Council's fear was truth, or if it was tyranny. In the Council chamber, the debate raged on. One aquatic elder spoke with sorrow. If we destroy them, we destroy the future. Humans may rise faster, but they also bring something no other race does. They bring unity in chaos. They bring fire where there is only cold. The High Speaker silenced him with a glare. Your words are weakness, and weakness will doom us all. Outside, fleets assembled, banners of 100 species glowing in the dark, vast armadas gathering at staging grounds. The largest war the galaxy had seen in centuries was forming, and at its heart was one small outlawed race. In the colony's hangar, Kara walked alone beneath the battleship's hull, her hand brushing the cold steel. She felt the ship rumble softly, as if alive, as if it too sensed what was coming. She whispered to it, They think we are fragile. They think we will break, but we will show them what it means to be human. Above her, the stars were vast and endless, hiding fleets that moved like predators, hiding secrets that shaped the fate of her people. She did not yet know the Council's true fear. She only knew the fight was coming, and in the Council's chamber, as the decree was sealed with finality, the High Speaker's last words echoed like thunder across the galaxy. This is not a war of conquest, this is a war of survival. Humanity must not endure, but far away on a world lit by twin suns, a single ship prepared, its heart beating, its captain waiting. And though the Council believed the humans doomed, the galaxy itself was beginning to shift, whispers spreading, doubts rising. For every war had two sides, and the Council had forgotten the oldest truth. Fear could unite, but defiance could ignite. The colony slept in uneasy silence. The twin suns long gone beyond the horizon, but Kara did not sleep. She stood alone on the bridge of the ancient battleship, the lights of the console glowing faintly on her face. She watched the stars as if expecting them to come alive with fire. Her hands rested on the captain's chair, her thoughts heavy with the knowledge that the next wave would not be small. The Council would send more, far more. A faint signal blinked across her console. An encrypted channel, weak, cautious. Kara frowned and opened it. The voice that came through was strange, deep and rough, the sound of scales shifting. Human Commander, it hissed. Do not cut this link. I do not come to mock or threaten. I come to warn. Kara stiffened. Who are you? The voice paused, then answered. An admiral of the Tesseran fleet sworn to the Council, but no friend to its lies. Before Kara could respond, another voice joined, high-pitched, clicking like insect wings. And I, Scholar Dren of the Athari, keeper of forbidden records, we reach out because what you face is not survival alone, but deception. The channel flickered as if fighting against being cut. Someone did not want this message to reach her. Kara's heart raced. Why risk speaking to me? The Council would execute you both, the reptilian admiral growled softly. Because I remember I fought beside humans in the old wars. I saw them bleed and I saw them rise again. The Council calls you dangerous because you adapt. But I know the truth. They fear you because you change others too. You ignite fire in those who stand with you. The insectoid scholar clicked in agreement. The Council hides the oldest truth. The humans once saved this galaxy, not threatened it. Kara's mind reeled. Saved it? From what? The signal grew distorted, but fragments came through. Images flickered across the console. Shattered fleets. Worlds in flame. A darkness not of flesh or metal, but something deeper. Long ago, the scholar's voice crackled. A shadow rose that devoured without mercy. And it was humanity who stood first and broke it. Their cost was terrible, but without them none of us would be here. The Council hides this because it reveals their weakness. The signal cut for a moment, static filling the bridge. Kara slammed her fist on the console, desperate for more. Then the channel returned for a final warning, the Admiral's voice urgent. Listen carefully. The Warhosts are not united by law or honor. They are bound by fear. Fear of you if you endure. If you strike, others will question, others will break away, but beware. The voice dropped lower. There is betrayal near you already, a spy in your ranks, sent to weaken you before the next strike. Then the line went dead. Silence falling over the bridge, Kara stood frozen, her breath sharp, her mind racing. Allies in the shadows, secrets of humanity's past, and now a traitor within her walls, at dawn. Governor Elias found her still staring at the stars. She told him only part of the truth, that the Council's fear ran deeper than they knew. But she kept the warning of betrayal to herself. She could not spread panic, not yet. Still, as she walked the colony that day, she found her eyes shifting to faces she had trusted, wondering, doubting. The engineers worked tirelessly on the battleship, systems that had been silent for centuries now glowing with power, drones awakened in launch bays, new weapons calibrated, yet every shadow felt longer, every whisper sharper. Kara could not forget the warning, a spy in your ranks that evening. She gathered her closest crew, navigators, gunners, engineers, men and women who had fought beside her in the first battle. She looked at each of them, searching their eyes. The Council thinks we are broken already, she said, her voice steady. But they are wrong. We will endure, we will fight, and we will make them fear us. But we must also guard against betrayal, for not all enemies come from outside. Her words cast unease across the room. Yet no one admitted guilt beyond the colony. The galaxy burned brighter with preparation. The Warhosts grew restless. Fleets massing in secret rendezvous points. Entire armadas hidden behind nebulae. Weapons charged, engines burning. Commanders eager to strike again, but whispers had begun to spread. Whispers of humans who had resisted. Humans who had drawn blood. Whispers of a battleship that should not exist. In hidden corners of the galaxy, more voices rose in secret. Merchants spoke of debts unpaid. Soldiers remembered comrades who were human. Scholars unearthed fragments of buried records. Not everyone believed the Council's decree. And for the first time in generations, cracks began to form in their great alliance, but on the colony, danger was closer. One evening, as Kara walked the ship's corridors, she found a console left unlocked, data streams flickering, codes transmitting to an unknown receiver. Her heart froze. The warning had been true. Someone was betraying them. She closed the system and traced the line, but the signal had already been cut. The spy was careful. They were still hidden. Kara clenched her fists, rage and fear swirling together. She whispered to herself, "You are among us, watching, waiting. But I will find you. And when I do, no mercy will save you." She did not know if the spy could hear, but her voice carried like a promise. Above, the stars burned cold, fleets of enemies gathering. But in the shadows of those stars, allies stirred as well, unseen but moving, waiting for the moment to rise. And in the heart of the human battleship, the hum of its awakening grew louder, like a heartbeat preparing for war. The Council thought fear would break humanity, but they had forgotten that fear could also spread. And now it spread not only among humans but among the galaxy itself. Allies in the shadows, betrayal in the light, and Kara standing between them all. Her voice steady, her eyes hard, ready for what came next. The colony had grown quiet again, but it was not the quiet of peace. It was the quiet of fear, of waiting, of people listening too hard for footsteps that did not belong. Kara felt it every time she walked the halls of the battleship, every time she looked at her crew. The warning of the shadowed admiral haunted her, a spy in your ranks. Days passed, the battleship grew stronger, its cannons polished, its engines alive with deep power. Drones lined in rows within their bays, waiting like predators for the signal to strike. Yet Kara could not enjoy the progress, because she saw the signs of betrayal everywhere. Small glitches in the security system, supply crates missing, false maintenance reports filed and signed with trusted names. One night as the twin suns set, she caught sight of a figure slipping into the hangar where weapons were stored. She followed silently, her hand on the grip of her sidearm. The figure worked quickly, planting a small device along the wall. Kara's breath caught, an explosive charge, meant to cripple the battleship before the next fight. Her voice rang out, sharp as steel. "Step away." The figure froze, then turned slowly, the face revealed in the glow of emergency lights. It was Loran, one of her own engineers. A man who had worked at her side since the awakening of the ship. His eyes were cold, his expression empty. "You should not have seen this," he said quietly. Kara's heart twisted. "Why, Loran? You fought with us, you bled with us in the first battle. Why betray your own?" Loran's lips curled in bitterness. "Because fighting the Council is death. Kara, they are too many. Too strong. I will not watch my people burned because of your stubborn pride. I made a deal. They promised me and my family safety. If I end this now," his hand hovered over the detonator. Her voice dropped lower, calm but filled with fire. "Safety? They will never give you safety, Loran. They will use you, then erase you because that is what the Council does. You think they will spare your family? They will only make them vanish slower." For a moment, doubt flickered in his eyes, but fear held him fast. Before he could act, Kara lunged. The fight was sudden and brutal, fists striking, the detonator clattering across the floor, alarms blaring as the device armed itself. Crew rushed in, shouting, confusion filling the hangar. Loran broke free, scrambling toward the weapon. But Kara's hand snapped forward. Grabbing it first, she slammed it against the wall, crushing the circuit, sparks flying. The charge fizzled into silence. The crew seized Loran, dragging him back as he shouted, "You're all doomed! You think you can fight them, but they will crush you, they will burn you all." His voice was madness now, a man who had chosen fear over defiance. Kara stood over him, her chest heaving, her voice sharp with fury. "Maybe they will, but not today. Not while I still breathe." The betrayal spread through the colony like poison. Trust shattered, whispers filled the air. If Loran, loyal Loran, could turn, who else might be waiting to strike? Paranoia seeped into every corner, but Kara knew she could not let it consume them. She stood before the people in the square, her voice steady. "Yes, there was betrayal, yes. There was a spy among us, but he has been stopped. And I swear to you, anyone who dares betray humanity again will face me first." Her eyes swept across the crowd. Fire burning in her gaze, her words steadied them. For if Kara did not break, neither would they, but deep inside, Kara felt the weight of it, the sting of betrayal from one she trusted. It cut deeper than enemy fire, and she knew there might still be more. The days after were not calm, for the Warhosts had begun to move. Signals came from the edge of the system, fleets descending, larger than before, thousands of ships carrying the banners of the Council. The Armada the scholar had warned of was here. Kara stood on the command deck as the alarms blared, her crew ready but weary, her people hidden in bunkers, her heart burning with fear and fury. The Warhosts filled the sky, endless and merciless, their weapons glowing, their voices booming across the comms. "Humans, you are surrounded. Surrender or be erased." Kara's eyes hardened. She thought of Loran's words, of the Council's lies, of the hidden allies who whispered of humanity's past. She leaned forward and spoke calmly into the channel. "If you want us gone, come and take us, but you will bleed for every star you touch." The first salvos lit the void. The battleship roared to life. Drones launched like swarms of steel predators, shields flared, cannons thundered. The colony shook with the force of war. The people clung to hope as fire rained from the sky. Kara guided her ship through chaos, weaving between blasts, her crew fighting with desperation. The battle raged like a storm, human courage against impossible numbers. Betrayal still fresh in their hearts, but fury stronger. And though the Warhosts pressed harder, though the Armada was vast, Kara's ship struck like a beast unchained, every blast tearing open enemy lines, every maneuver defying expectation. Yet as the battle burned brighter, Kara knew the truth. This was not the final fight. This was only survival. The true war had only just begun. The Council would never stop. They would only grow more desperate, more ruthless. And humanity's path was blood and fire. On the bridge, her voice rose above the roar of battle. Fierce and unyielding. "They want us erased. They want us forgotten. But we will carve our name into the stars with fire. Let them come, we will endure. We will fight. We will show them what it means to be human." And even as the Warhosts closed in, even as the colony trembled on the edge of ruin, her crew answered with one voice, a roar that cut through fear. Because betrayal had not broken them, it had only sharpened them. The void was fire. The colony's skies burned with the glow of battle. Alien ships blazed across the heavens, their weapons tearing at the human defenses. The ground shook as debris rained like meteors. But still the battleship fought, its cannons spitting defiance, its drones screaming through the dark. Kara stood at the heart of it all, her hands steady on the controls, her eyes fixed on the endless armada before her. Her crew was exhausted, their voices raw from shouting orders, their bodies trembling from hours of combat. Yet none abandoned their posts, for they knew what Kara knew. This was the moment, the last stand. Either they broke here, or humanity's flame would be extinguished forever. The comms blared with the voice of the Council's fleet commander, deep and cold. Humans, you resist still? You are a dying ember, and today we extinguish you forever. Kara's jaw clenched. Her voice cut back across the channel, sharp as a blade. If humanity is outlawed, then humanity will become the law if you want us gone. You will choke on our fire first. Her words carried through the battlefield, reaching ears both friend and foe. Something stirred then. Not just in her crew, not just in the colony, but in the alien ranks themselves. Some hesitated. Some remembered debts owed to humans, lives saved, battles fought together in ages past. For the first time, cracks appeared in the Armada, a few ships holding back instead of pressing forward. The Council commander roared in fury, ordering all ships to attack. Beams of plasma streaked across the void. Kara drove the battleship forward, its ancient core burning brighter than ever before. Energy surged through its veins, the hull glowing like a star. "Now!" she shouted, and the ship unleashed its hidden arsenal. Weapons that had slept for centuries awoke. Lances of searing light ripped through enemy lines, tearing entire squadrons apart. The galaxy itself seemed to tremble. The Warhosts faltered, shocked at the fury of one ship. But Kara did not stop. She pressed harder, diving into the heart of the enemy. Every blast from her ship a declaration. We are here. We will not fall on the ground. The colonists rose from shelters, watching the sky alight with war. Their fear turned to awe. They cheered through tears, voices rising as one. They no longer felt like prey. They no longer felt forgotten. For in that moment, humanity's spirit was blazing across the stars for all to see. The council chamber far away shook with reports, news flooding in. The humans resist. The Armada is breaking on their battleship. It cannot be destroyed. The high speaker's silver form flickered with rage. "Impossible," she hissed, but deep in her heart, she knew the truth, the very truth they had tried to bury. Humans were not fragile, they were unyielding. Back in the void, the battle reached its peak. Kara's ship faced the Council's flagship, a monster of steel 10 times her size, bristling with weapons, its shadow falling over the battlefield. The commander's voice thundered, "This ends now." But Kara's eyes burned with fire. "Yes, it ends, but not the way you think," she whispered. She ordered her crew to divert all power to the core. The ship shuddered, energy screaming through every circuit. Lights flickered, alarms wailed. Her crew shouted in fear, "Captain, the core will collapse, it will destroy us all." Kara's voice was calm, almost gentle. "If it does, then let it. But we will make sure the galaxy never forgets humanity's answer." The battleship surged forward, colliding with the flagship in a blaze of light. Weapons firing point blank, shields tearing apart, explosions ripping through the enemy vessel. The void filled with fire so bright it blinded the fleets. The flagship cracked, its core rupturing, a chain reaction tearing it apart. The Armada reeled in horror as their greatest ship was consumed. But Kara's ship did not fall. It limped from the fire. Scarred, broken, but alive, its ancient core holding just enough. The crew gasped in disbelief, their cheers ragged but fierce. They had survived the impossible. They had slain the Council's monster. Across the battlefield, silence fell. Then ships began to turn away. Alien commanders refusing to continue, their loyalty to the Council broken by what they had witnessed. Whispers carried on the comms, "Humans cannot be destroyed. They are not prey. They are fire. They fight like no other." The cracks spread. Fleets broke apart. The Warhosts scattered. The Council had lost not just a battle, but their hold on fear. For now, every species in the galaxy had seen the truth. One outlawed race had stood against thousands, and they had endured on the bridge. Kara slumped into the captain's chair, her body heavy with exhaustion, her crew around her weeping, laughing, some too stunned to speak. Governor Elias's voice came through the comm, trembling with pride. "You did it, Kara." "You showed them." She closed her eyes, her voice soft. "No, we showed them, every human, every soul who refused to kneel." The colony below erupted in celebration. Families embraced, children danced, voices rose together in defiance and joy. They were no longer a forgotten outpost. They were the spark that had lit the stars. And across the galaxy stories spread, whispered at first, then shouted. Stories of humans who defied the council, of a battleship that burned brighter than the suns, of a people who could not be erased. The high speaker sat in silence, her silver glow dim, for she knew the war was not finished. But the council's control was broken. Fear no longer belonged to them. It belonged to the humans now, and in the void, drifting among the wreckage of war. Kara looked out at the stars, her eyes filled with fire. She whispered a promise not just to her people, but to the galaxy itself. We are humanity. We endure, we fight, and we will never kneel. The galaxy would never forget those words, for they were more than defiance. They were the human answer, an answer that would echo through the stars for all time.